Joining us now for more on the Tulsa mass shooting and what comes next is Tulsa area Congressman Republican Markwayne Mullin. Thank you so much for your time tonight, Congressman.
Thank you, Lindsay. Thanks for having me on.
So you were born in Tulsa. Your district is very close to where this hospital is located. Today, we learned the shooter bought an AR semi-automatic weapon just a few hours before the shooting and targeted his doctor. Oklahoma does not have a waiting period, as you know, for purchasing guns. Do you think at this point maybe that should be rethought?
No, I really don't. You know, there's a lot more, I think, to the information that we're getting from law enforcement all the time about this gentleman's mental capacity, what was happening. But keep in mind, you know, if we're really going to be talking about us upholding the Constitution, which every one of us, every member of Congress, we swore to uphold the Constitution of the United States. You got to think about the Second Amendment and its purity. The Second Amendment is the only one that had the full sin. And what I mean by the full sin, it says it shall not be infringed, full stop.
Devil's advocate here for a moment. I mean, the Constitution doesn't say anything about the age, for example, right? It doesn't say that you can't increase the limit to 21 in order to buy a gun, instead of allowing people to buy guns when they're 18 when they can't even buy cigarettes or alcohol. Right. So is that something that you might consider altering?
Well, I think it's something that we all got to think about. You're absolutely correct, Lindsay. You brought up a good point. It doesn't give the limitations on that. I think there is somewhat a precedence to which we can go out there and say that we have put limitations on alcohol, and we put limitations on tobacco, and we put limitations on people serving in the military. I think 18, if you're old enough to sign up and defend this country with your life at 18 years old, then you're considered an adult in our court of law. Then you're also considered an adult to purchase a weapon. But I think you're absolutely right. I think that is something that we should talk about together, because it doesn't, as I stated before, the Constitution doesn't allow for any infringement of the Second Amendment.
A possible bipartisan area of consensus is red flag laws, which 19 states and D.C. currently have on the books. The laws allow police or family embeds to petition a court to temporarily confiscate firearms from an individual. In 2020, Oklahoma became the first state to prohibit red flag laws. What are your views on red flag laws?
I think red flag laws leaves an interpretation to a court that may not be friendly to the Second Amendment. It may not be friendly to understanding the Second Amendment as a whole. And so I think they're dangerous. I know we're talking about the shooting at the Natalie Center at St. Francis Hospital, which I was born at St. Francis Hospital, obviously not at the Natalie Center. And so when we start talking about situations like that, those are situations to which you can't really control. Someone has a situation to where they're going to, they have ill will to an individual. There's multiple ways that can be carried out. When we start talking about protecting our kids at our schools, there's also a way that, if we're really serious about that, how we can protect our schools immediately. And that's a conversation we should be having. How can we make our schools a hard target? How can we fund federally? How can we fund our schools to make sure that they're no longer a soft target and open to predators, truly predators that want to have this ill-conceived idea that they have power over someone because of mental illness? How can we start securing our schools? And I think the federal government has a role to play in that. And so the conversation is to be much deeper than just talking about gun control.
So just a really quick question here. For somebody who has a history of mental illness, you feel that they should be able to go in and buy a gun? Do I have that right, or am I misconstruing that?
Well, I mean, what is considered mental illness? PTSD sometimes is considered mental illness, right? And these are individuals that have served the country. Just because you have some issues doesn't mean mental illness. So how do you define mental illness? We're still trying to figure out how to even treat mental illness. Very slippery for us to leave that up to our courts, because you and I both know our courts never make political decisions. Well, we know that's wrong. Our courts are always ruling on political things, and our judges, for some reason, are constantly putting their personal opinion on a lot of their rulings now. And that is something that I'm not willing to trust the courts with.
You've spoken about mental health quite a bit, and many agree that more money is necessary there. An analysis of Connecticut's red flag law in place since 1999 found that for every 10 to 20 guns taken away that led to one averted suicide. Is a part of mental health ensuring authorities have a way of taking guns away from people who might use them to harm themselves? or others? I know you're saying that, it's so broad and everything, but would there even be any line of delineation where you might say somebody who has gone to a therapist and said, you know what, I've been having these visions of performing some kind of mass shooting and potentially harming myself. Would you say that that person should still be able to go into a gun store?
I think it's hard for us to say that right now. Right now, if it's a criminal, if it's a convicted felon, they shouldn't have a gun. I'll circle back to this, Lindsey. What about securing our schools? What about making schools a hard target again? Do you realize there's $123 billion that we put out to COVID to these schools, and only 5% of it's been spent? What if we were to take that $123 billion and reappropriate it to these schools and say, secure your schools with this, and have federal standards?
Well, I know
on how
that in Texas they did earmark a significant amount of money. The current governor earmarked a significant amount of money to securing schools, and tell the parents at Robb Elementary what good that money did.
Well, I'm not familiar with what the state of Texas did and how they did it. We're talking about federal fixes. We're talking about protecting our kids at school. And when we start talking about protecting our kids at school, I'm saying this is a role that can make an immediate impact to protecting our kids at school, rather than just talking about gun control. What I fear is that the Democrats are using this because it's a political year, and they feel like this is a perfect opportunity. We know they've always had a war on the Second Amendment. We've even heard what Joe Biden or President Biden has said multiple times about the Second Amendment. I feel like this is political. What I want to do is come up with a solution. Any
areas that both parties that you feel can come together to support federal legislation, in addition to what you're talking about in securing schools?
Well, I'm not really. It's hard to predict what President Biden is going to say this evening. I know what they put their press release, that they're going to go after, more gun control and stricter gun control. I fear, as I said, that the Democrats are going to make this a political issue, much like they do with immigration. I think that they're going to make this a political issue running all the way up to November, because it's a personal topic and it's an emotional topic. But what I'd like to hear from the president is that he leave politics out of it. Don't mix politics with protecting our kids. Surely there's one area that we can agree with, and that's that set this subject aside and let's see what we can do immediately, which is why I'm talking about securing our schools. It's always going to be political when we start talking about how we're going to have gun control, when people like me believe that the Second Amendment is true when it says it shall not be infringed, full stop. So we're not going to get past that point. So what can we do to protect our kids? And that's what I've been proposing, is using the COVID relief dollars to secure our schools.
Representative Markwayne Mullin, we thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate you coming on the show.
Lindsey, I appreciate you. Thanks for this interview.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.